Yeah, so let's, while you're sharing the link to our stream with your friends, let me invite our next speaker to our live stream. It's Evgeny Borisov. Evgeny, welcome to Java Conference.
Hi.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes, we
Welcome,
can
guys.
hear you. We can hear you too. Nice having you on our conference. So we had your talk 2 years ago when we even haven't called ourselves Javon. We called our Java Day, and your talk was a record talk. We had it for 6 hours. So, do we have plans to beat this record today?
Today we will use assistance of ChatGPT, so it will be twice faster. I think 3 hours will be enough.
Okay, okay. I'm set to counter.
Maybe vice versa. Maybe struggling with ChatGPT can take twice more, so it will be 12 hours. Let's see.
Super.
Okay. So I hope today we will not have to switch to Zoom. So guys, for your information, like 3 years ago, we had first conference which we organized, and there was a talk from Evgeny. I think it was about Spring. So we go into inside of Springs and try to make it by ourselves, by our hands. I mean, by hands of Evgeny, of course. And we start in the like here on YouTube as it was planned. So we started. We spent I think 3 hours, and then we just switched to Zoom, and mostly everyone who were with us on YouTube just switched with us, and then we proceed for like 3 or 4 hours more there. So it was legend. Wait for it, Derry. Yeah, it was great. And today, I would say that we would nearly repeat this talk, but not by ourselves, but with ChatGPT, right?
Kind of, but not only. I'll explain now. Just a moment. I want to close everything, every pop-ups, and before I close the Teams and email, I have in 1 minute one additional meeting which called "Let's Build Spring Framework with ChatGPT," and here is a link to video. Should I enter it or?
No. You are already here.
Okay, so just share my screen. That's all.
Yes. So while you're sharing your screen, guys, I want to remind you. First of all, you need to take the link to the streaming and send it to your friends. That's what you have to do right now. Friends, colleagues, everyone.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
first thing.
It's
Thing
very
number
for them. Help them to be smarter, to learn something.
Yeah. Thing number two, we have two chats on YouTube and on the platform, and we would have some interactives during this call, some questions, some things. So still you may use this chat to share your opinions, expressions, help ChatGPT became like viewers GPT, help us with this talk, like share your opinions, questions, etc., etc., etc. Be with us here, so we will see that you're alive with us. Yeah, so I think we are done here. We will ask our technical team to share the screen. Yeah, we will scroll it to the beginning. Okay, good luck, and let's begin.
Okay.
Good luck, have fun.
So I'll close my phone as well. Let's start, guys. So as Roman mentioned, this talk already exists several years ago. I wanted to explain to developers how Spring work from inside by writing a similar framework, by doing step by step in order to solve some technical task, and in order to write beautiful code, we decided to develop some infrastructure, but the main purpose is to write the infrastructure, not to complete the task. Task is just for example. And today we will do the same with ChatGPT. So who is this talk for? This is talk, first of all, for the people who love Spring, know Spring, want to know more about Spring. This talk is for people who love beautiful object-oriented code and love to make an effort to make it happen. And finally, and this is the main reason of this talk, is this talk is for people who want to understand how the simple tasks like our daily tasks from Jira can be completed by using ChatGPT, and with that, ChatGPT can make us a better engineer. I mean, more efficient. Even if we spend 20% less time, we are more efficient engineers by help of ChatGPT. And it's a lot of different stories and ideas where ChatGPT can help us. So in my talk, I want to concentrate only in the daily super developers tasks. Okay. Now, may I ask something before I'll go on? I need your help, Roman. How many people from who are listening to me now listened the previous version, the previous part of this talk remade by ChatGPT?
I don't know. So, guys, this talk was on Devox Ukraine, as far as I understand, right? So, if you
Yes,
already,
I'm talking about this talk yet.
yeah. So, if you heard this like previous edition of this talk, please send us pluses into the chat on YouTube or on the platform, so we would know. While we're waiting for answers, Evgeny, may I ask you to click hide button on the StreamYard, this
Yeah.
white.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, now it's great. So yeah, we have some pluses, not a lot, like
Okay.
just like about
Okay.
3.
It just it's not another version of the same talk. I finally hope that your conference will allow to me to complete this talk because I succeeded to do it only maximum by 50%. So I want to not to skip totally the 50% I already covered. Because of that, I asked if everybody said yes, we already heard it. I would do it in a couple of minutes. Now I will spend a little bit more time. Now this talk will be in totally new format. I call it semi live coding. It's not live coding totally. It's semi live coding. Why? Because several times when I tried to do that by using ChatGPT on live, every time something happened. And one of the things which always happens to me, it's start working super slowly and we losing a lot of time. So today I will do most of the coding in live, but the prompts I already have, and we will cover all what I wrote, and we will do it in parallel. One important disclaimer that all I'm gonna present and I'm gonna try to teach and to expose you to my methodology of using ChatGPT is all my personal experience. Now, because this session is recorded, nothing can go wrong during this talk. It will be deterministic. Okay, so people who are not familiar with me, I'm Evgeny Borisov. I'm writing Java more than 20 years. For the last half of year, I'm doing DevRel in EPAM. DevRel, it's this is an explanation from Infinite Wisdom of ChatGPT, that DevRel is a program and set of activities within and outside of the organization that interact with developers on their journey with your company. But to make a long story short, DevRel is about a lot of different kind of activities which can help engage developers into learning, into extra miles activities, and finally, in order to make them happier, but the company will earn even more money. Okay, so we love activities like conferences, webinars, workshops, hackathons, and in addition, it can be any other activities, not always related to coding or some professional skills, but to make developers more satisfied with their life in the company. And because our department is new and we still don't have a budget to have the full capacity and a lot of people, meanwhile we have closed community, and I'm engaging you to come to register. And when we have capacity, I promise I personally will come to you and we'll ask you about your ideas, and we'll try to implement all relevant ideas. Okay, so how the DevRel is working, in case we go to specific location in order to improve their collaboration, their processes, their engagement, and their satisfaction from their life as employees in EPAM. So we analyzing the current situation, we decide what should be done, we prepare activity for what should be done, we deliver this activity, and we collect feedback and measure the result. So this task I want to implement today in order to have something for developing Spring around it. And this is the idea of the class we want to develop. It's a class called devrelza. The only method it will have execute the overall strategy. This is the steps we want to implement, and the code will, in the beginning, look like you can see in the screen. So we have first of all, let's see the execute the overall strategy method. By help of analyzer, we finding the most crucial activity which can help to specific location in the point of view of the DevRel. Then we need to measure the current situation, so we collect some metrics about current activities or something else, and then we produce our activity, and then we want to print some difference, and we calculate some, I call it DevRel money, dev dollars, like you can see in this output. But what we want from our code, we want it will be by today's standards, and today's standards is code should be flexible, because we always have continuous delivery development, and we always have new tasks to develop. So the code should be flexible, it should be reusable, and should be readable. This is the most important things to the code, except from the code is working. And we know that today's standards is single responsibility, open close principle, depends on inversion, blah, blah, blah. You already know that. And then the first thing I did, I just went to ChatGPT and I asked if my devrelza class is good. Let's see the answer of ChatGPT. First of all, I want to maybe to mention part of my rules before I will cover it in the slides. I realized that the best way for developers like me to work with ChatGPT is to work by single responsibility. So as you can see, I have several classes I'm gonna develop, and for each class, I have additional prompt, and the names of the prompts are called by convention. So I finished this talk in the middle 1 month ago, and I promised that today I will continue from the same point. So in order to continue from the same point, I want to see what I developed and what was the last point with my code. So because all my prompts called by convention, I easily can find it because it has the prefix of the project name, which is devrelish. You know, devrelu потихонечку, devrelu. That's what we are doing. And I can see why it's 4. It should be, let me refresh it and show it again. You need to scroll down before you start your search, otherwise it will not find. Okay, now Control F, and then yes, this is the first class we're gonna work on it, the ObjectFactory. Okay, but you can see I have 6 different prompts, because finally we're gonna develop something like 6 interesting classes, which will together will reproduce the kind of Spring infrastructure. So let's start with ObjectFactory prompt. Think about that. Meanwhile, it doesn't have name, okay, because we don't know that it should be called ObjectFactory. And as I told you, the first thing I did, I just wrote this class in order to understand if it keeps the solid principle, okay? If you will just ask if the class is good or not, you will receive very different answers each time, and I want to concentrate on the things which are important to me. I want to work by solid, so I'm asking about solid, and the answer of ChatGPT was that, first of all, I'm breaking the dependency inversion principle, and it's not good idea to instantiate and configure the objects which will be used by devrelza by the result itself. Okay, and it explains that it's better to receive it from somewhere via constructor, but I want to write Spring infrastructure, and in order to do that, I want to think. We go now 20 years back before Spring was invented, and we asking ourselves who should be responsible for creating all these objects like metric, collector, analyzer, producer. It is not responsibility of developer, because developer is not factory of object. Developer should be used for developer activities. Okay, so in order to create a metric collector, we need metric collector factory and analyzer factory, producer factory, developer factory, and in order to receive factory from somewhere, we need factory. And finally, I remember in 2000 and something, in the beginning of 2000, was very popular meme that I started using Java, and now I have only problem factory. So the next step of Java object-oriented evolution was to work with some kind of object factory, some central factory. It had different names in the big companies, but each big company before common open source frameworks like Spring were released, each big company developed his own framework, and part of them maybe later become things like Spring and open source. So we need to develop something like ObjectFactory with only method for now create object, which can receive type. And I'm gonna ask ChatGPT how to do that. So the first thing I did after I analyzed that in order to improve my developer class, I need some infrastructure. I'm asking write class ObjectFactory, which should be equal Singleton, because I need to take it from any place. Okay, don't worry, it will not be final version. It's not inversion of control immediately. Okay, we go in step by step to build something like, but I want to do it logically. I don't want to jump from several steps to skip them. So I'm asking for write ObjectFactory, which should be equal Singleton with method create object, which will receive the type, and I explain it can be class or interface, and it will create an instance. In case type is an interface, ask some config object about implementation. And in one shot, I received not bad answer, which I took to the production. You can see that the ObjectFactory, first of all, it's really homemade Singleton with private constructor, with static get instance method, and then create object, receive a type, and then it asks from some, if it's interface, and in case it is interface, we need to ask some config for implementation of this type. And after we did that, we take in the default constructor. By convention, it should present in any class which we created by our ObjectFactory, and invoking it, receiving a new object, and return it. And this is the semi-ready config class, but the main structure is good. It contains map, which maps class via interface. I call it interface. He called it interface to implementation map. And this map is empty now. Okay. So what I did, I said, great job, but I improved it with generic. And I did several fixes. You see, we can see here how many fixes I did before I received the good result. I don't know what was 5. 5 was something by mistake. So 4 is the last. It's another kind of rule for myself. If I'm not receiving better result after 4 attempts, I understand that maybe to do it without ChatGPT, or to do it differently totally, because more than 4 attempts usually just will spend my time. If you want to see what I did before, it was not. It was several fixes. For example, I removed this setConfig method. I decided I don't need it. Then I looked at my class and I decided to do one more little fix, something with generics, and to return T instead of object, something like that. Okay, so finally, I did that, and what I said. Just a moment, where it was. I said great job, but I improved it with generic. Don't answer, just for information. Why I'm doing this? Because you know what? Let's switch to the presentation. I want to summarize several rules I'm going to do every moment. So to make it clear, let's start from the first one. So how do we work with prompt engineering? We ask a question, then we get some answer, then we analyze an answer. Then if its answer is not good enough, and usually it's not good enough from the first attempt, we're trying to understand what was wrong, and then we understand how can we improve our question, and then we ask it again. And then each cycle like this give me better answer and better answer and better answer. And finally, I have super long prompt, which is useful because I cannot find something inside of it, but I still don't have a good answer, and I want to drop it and to start from scratch, or to do it without ChatGPT. Or maybe another example, what can be wrong with this approach, think that you asking and you receiving an answers, and then you understand that something like 25 questions ago, you choose the wrong way. And now you need to go back and fix it there, but you don't remember where it exactly was because you have such a lot of incorrect answers. Because if these answers were good, you wouldn't continue to ask. Okay, so what I'm saying stop garbaging your own history. Your history can be very useful, not only in the moment when you develop it now. It can be useful for me later, like you saw now. After 1 month, I need to continue from the same point. It is very useful in kind. It contains the really needed information. Okay, so this is buttons I love. I love to stop ChatGPT from hallucinating or from giving me answer from the wrong direction. I'm not always waiting till the end, because I love, and it will be additional rule, I love to start with very short prompt in order to see to what direction I should prolong this prompt. So I'm stopping it if it goes to the wrong direction, and I'm using the edit button. Okay, so instead of asking additional question, I ask question, get some not good enough answer, analyze answer, find what's wrong, and then I'm editing the question. And finally, very few answers and few questions will remain in my prompt. I will keep only the ones who were intermediate stages, which were taken into the production before the next feature I decided to implement, or maybe some evolution process which is important to me because I was going step by step to the good direction. Okay, but not to keep it so long. So rule number 1, to summarize what we did now, don't continue asking when getting a wrong answer. Edit existing question. Continue asking only if the received result has value for you. If some parts of the result are valuable, you just can take them to IntelliJ or some other place before you edit the question, because when you edit in the question, all text below will disappear. Okay, it's very important, and you sometimes you can use it to clean your history from not relevant branches. For example, you ask some question and you received a good answer, then you decided to keep it, and then you ask additional question, and after some answers you understood that you go into the wrong direction, so immediately you go to a couple of questions back when you started to ask wrong questions, and you edit the question there, and all the branch will disappear. Okay, so you can clean your history from not useful parts. Now, when you want to clarify something, like for example later on, today it will happen for sure, I will use some new technology I didn't use before, like byte body. Okay, I was using CGLib or dynamic proxy, AspicJ, but byte body I didn't use. And during this talk, we will have some task where it will be needed. And then I want to ask ChatGPT about byte body, several questions to understand what is that, how it's popular, and maybe to receive some statistic about the benchmark. So do not do that in the same chat when you develop in the class. Open the new one and don't throw garbage to your own chat. The only one thing you need to keep in mind that when you open a new chat, you don't have the previous context. So sometimes when I need, I can take some parts from the previous prompt to the new one. And when my chat is finished, I have two options. Option number one, I will delete this chat because I know it is useful for me. For example, I ask several questions about some versions or something like that, but these questions will not be relevant after a period of time. So it's meaningless to keep this conversation in my history. Or maybe I didn't understood some concept and then I opened a new chat and I got the concept and now I don't want to keep it. Okay, I don't need it. So just delete this chat. In case you decide that this chat is useful, you need to give it some meaningful name, otherwise you will not find it. Okay, so or you will rename it or you will delete it. Okay, and in case my class, my prompt was created to develop some class, my convention is to give to this chat name of the project dot name of the class, and then I easily can find it no matter how many years after. By the way, I don't have enough time, but hopefully maybe some enthusiasts will come to us and maybe we already started to develop some plugin for IntelliJ, which will allow to us to do this without switching between ChatGPT window, the browser, and the IntelliJ IDEA. It will be from the plugin there. Okay, now let's go back to our prompts. So the next thing I did after I received this ObjectFactory and the config class, I decided to what I thought. The config holds the map which maps the interface via class, right? But in most of cases, it will be only one implementation per interface. We usually create an interface because maybe we have some mock implementation, because we want the flexibility, no matter what today I don't think about another implementation, but still we love to work with interfaces. But in many cases, it's only one implementation. Maybe we have several implementations for different clients, but when we pack the application to some final distributed jar, we will pick up only specific implementations for particular clients, and in the runtime it will be only one. So it's meaningless for me to spend the time and provide all this mapping when I have only one implementation in the constructor of this map, or to put it in some JSON file, no matter where. But in case I have only one implementation, I want just to scan the class path, hopefully it will be only one implementation, and then I will find it and I will create from this object, and I will be able to later on to inject it and so on. Okay, so that's what I did. As you can see, I'm working by single responsibility. We will cover it later in the slides. I'm creating the new prompt because my previous prompt was finished with that my ObjectFactory, the intermediate version, is completed and working, hopefully. And I already saw how my config class should look like, but it should be additional prompt for the config. So I'm taking the only version I had, which started in the previous prompt of my config class. I'm just putting it here, and I say add this and this ObjectFactory, which should use and I'm putting the ObjectFactory in order that ChatGPT will see all the picture. It's new prompt without context. If you think, by the way, I want to stop you thinking from that. It's not good idea that every time when I have the new prompt, I need to bring parts from the previous prompts, because in case I have integration from object A with object B, C, and D, I need maybe several pieces of code from different prompts in order to explain how this new class will be integrated with A, B, and C. But it's okay. if you have several integrations like this, it's okay. If you have 72, maybe you have a problem with single responsibility, and maybe when you struggling too much with copy pasting code from different classes in order to create one context, it means that you have some problem in architecture. Maybe it's a good sign. But two classes, it's not too much for me. So I have the template for the config I loved, and I have the ObjectFactory existing version. And then I say, write only config class. You see, I fixed it several times. I added this game with generics, and I added some in case there is zero implementation and more than one implementation, from exception with different messages. You see, so what can go wrong? In case my config will be able to scan the class path, or my ObjectFactory will be able to, no matter. But when I'm scanning, in case I will find more than one implementation, I want one exception. But in case I'm finding zero implementation, I want another exception. So it was my last fix. Okay. In the first fix, I just provided the config class without providing ObjectFactory. So it was not enough. In the second attempt, I added ObjectFactory, and the additional attempt, I explained that I love generic like this and not just question sign. And finally, I added this information that I want to separate the message of the exception. And this is the final result I got from config. Not bad. You can see it now. So in the get implementation method, it uses first of all the map. It tries to take the implementation from the map. Maybe it's already there, but in case it's null, it's try to find implementation of this interface in my package. Okay, so I need to provide com EPAM or something like that, but it will not be hard coded in the end. It will be taken from some configuration file, and then in case there is zero implementation file. But by the way, how he is finding the implementation? I'm not sure. I think it was. This was the last version. 5 is I just played with something. Yes. Yes, here is better. Get implementation tries to take it from the map. Then in case it's null, we create the reflections. Reflection is some library I need to add to my POM, which extend the reflections, existing Java reflections functionality. For example, they have methods like get status of, and you can provide interface or class and receive all subclasses or classes which implements provided interface. And then I can check if the size 1, I can, and I'm checking that it's not abstract. And then I can put it to my map. I found it, and I can stop. You see, I didn't love this code. It was a little bit ugly with break. So I tried to give him another chance, and then I changed it to this one. And on the way, I asked for separate the message of exception, but then he did something very strange with current thread without using the reflection. So my latest version was this one. And then the next thing, before we go to IntelliJ, what will happen in case I will have more than one implementation in ClassPass? Let me show you. If let's go to presentation mode, I think. Enter presentation mode. Okay. If we'll run the application now, I can see that everything is working. Starting the overall activity, engaging new speakers. This is the most crucial activity which was found by analyzer. providing non-authentic session. This is how we do the activity, gathering best potential speakers, providing speaker courses, and then we can measure the success. It was improved by $900 dev dollars. Great. Now, if we look at the Devrelza, and Devrelza uses ObjectFactory now in order to receive the analyzer and the metric collector. And now, for example, if you'll create one additional analyzer, okay, let's implement one additional analyzer. Let's call it lazy Devrel analyzer. And lazy Devrel analyzer always will say nothing to do, all good. Okay, so now we have two implementations for the Devrel analyzer, and the question, what will ObjectFactory will bring when I will ask for create object, and here will be the interface which has more than one implementation. So if I run this now, we can see an exception. Multiple implementations found for the Rails analyzer. Okay, and I can see their names. By the way, why I can see their names, because finally you see here the reflections which was added, the dependency, and I said him, great job, I fixed a little bit, dot answer for your information. So I work by 80-20%. What does it mean? It means that usually ChatGPT will not give you 100%. If you want to receive 100% of result by ChatGPT, you will spend too much time. After you covered 80%, usually I'm saying that the 20% which is left, I can complete by myself. But when I will finish, I will go to ChatGPT and I always will say him, thank you. It was a wonderful job, because he learns from that, from my feedback. And then I can say, but I improved it a little bit with generics or with that. And then I'm synchronizing my prompt with my IntelliJ always. So I gave him this. And for example, what I did, I added this last version. Yes, it's only version. Great job. Multiple or zero implementations found for interface get type. No, it seems like I combined between the previous version and that version, and then, yep, yes, here we are. Okay, great job, but I improved the exception message. Don't answer, just for your information. So what I did with exception message, it's two different exceptions, but in case we have more than one implementation, I want to see the names of the classes which implement the same interface. So I added this line, I added by myself. I could ask it from ChatGPT to take all the found implementations and to collect the names of these classes with comma, and then add it to the message. Okay, but I decided it's less than 20%, so I did it by myself. Okay. Now let's go back and let's see what will be the next task which will be able to solve it. So in case we have only one implementation, we have automatic scanning. But in case we have more than one implementation, we need to explain somewhere about our configuration. This part of configuration will say which implementation should be chosen for this particular interface. And we can use maybe property file. I want something which can be changed without compiling it again. Okay, so Java option, for example, I'm not choosing. Maybe Groovy script, maybe some Kotlin file. but constant file should be compiled as well. JSON, okay? As if you're familiar with Spring, you know the Spring can be configured with property file. Property file is not supported actually, but part of it exists since 2003. XML, Java config, Groovy config, Kotlin config, but JSON they do not support. So let's support something new. Okay. Now let's see what I did. I created new prompt, right? Because it's another responsibility. My config uses the reflections. You see the reflections here are configured. This is another change I did. Remember, this is my final version from my side with 20%. So it was part of the 20% to configure. Meanwhile, it's hard-coded. Don't worry, it will not remain like this. Maybe with your help. But I'm configuring to see on the reflection. So I want more or less the same thing, but with some kind of JSON to map reader. Okay, so my config will use two assistants. The first one is his reflections scanner, and the second one is the JSON to map reader, which can fill this map on the bootstrap when the config will be created on the beginning. So I created a new prompt. The name in the end will be JSON to map reader. Okay, the relish.json to map reader, and then I say write JSON to map reader, which will receive name of file and will build map of class to interface. In order, my config will be able to get impl against interface. And I'm providing my config class. I'm saying he is my config class because it's new prompt. Okay, there is no context. And I say write only JSON to map reader. I did here 3 attempts, and then I got the good result. Okay, what was wrong with the previous ones? It was some problems with generic. So finally, I let it for him, and the final result was good. So first of all, he suggested me to add Jackson data bind library to my POM, and then in the constructor JSON to map reader, as you can see, it holds object mapper from Jackson data bind, and it contains map, which finally should be my result, which should be filled. And here I'm using ChatGPT. Decided to use a class loader, and it takes from resources the file by file name. I will have some JSON.config, something like that. In case it was not null, it just use object mapper and read this input stream, and then iterating by all received results and just put it into the map, and finally it returns the map to me. Okay, looks good. And because I provided the config which will use this JSON to map reader, he said to me what I should change in my config in order to make it work together. As you can see, we already had the reflections here instantiated on COM-EPAM, and here is the JSON to map reader, and here he say put all and from config.json, even he suggested the name. Okay, so I just took this new JSON to map reader class, and I yes, no, it was before. You can see that I provided this change. Just a second. No, maybe it will be later. So let me demonstrate how it works now. Okay, so here is our JSON file, config.json, and now I add in additional mapping, and I'm saying that devrel analyzer, devrel, you see, it's just text, devrel analyzer should be lazy devrel analyzer. I hope I didn't make some spelling mistakes. And it should be comma, right? This mapping, by the way, is redundant because I have only one implementation of metric collector. You see, now it's working, and we can see nothing to do, all good. Okay, and if I'll change it back to devrel analyzer impl, now we can see engaging new speakers. Okay, so we can summarize the benefits we have from now from our framework. So again, what do we have? We have ObjectFactory, and ObjectFactory can create object from the, mostly we will use it in order to create it from the interface because we love flexibility. And for example, the devrel is a class we already saw started to use ObjectFactory, and it is asking by the interfaces and implementations, and our config knows about the implementations with help of two friends. First of all, it has the reflections scanner which can scan, and it has a map which filled in the constructor phase from the JSON file easily. So meanwhile, we have three classes, right? ObjectFactory, config, and JSON to map reader. This is our framework. And the final benefit that we have one central place where all objects will be created. I'm not saying that we will create any object like person with ObjectFactory, but any singletons usually will be created by ObjectFactory, and we have one central place where when they will be created. So because of that, we have flexibility to change implementations without touching the code. And before ObjectFactory will return an object, we can configure it according to some conventions we can invent in the future. And later on, this ObjectFactory or maybe some additional abstraction around our infrastructure can be used as a cache for singletons, but we'll do it in the end. So in order to emphasize or give an example of what can be additional benefits of ObjectFactory, I said here that before ObjectFactory will return an object, it can configure it. So this is an example what should be configured. For example, again, this is not an example from real life. I'm not thinking that inject random int notation can be super useful maybe for testers, but it can serve as a good and simple example, and will help us to continue customizing our infrastructure. So the meaning of this annotation is that every time I have some fields in my classes marked by inject random int, these fields should be configured by ObjectFactory with the values within a range of this annotation. So let me demonstrate you what have I done. I first of all, I asked myself a question: should I add this code to ObjectFactory, or should I add some additional friend to my ObjectFactory? And then I understood that if I don't want to break single responsibility, it should not be done in ObjectFactory, because the duty of ObjectFactory to create objects, not configure them. Configure them will be duty of some object configurators. And as I can see in the future, it will be, because we love single responsibility, it will be a lot of different object configurators. Each one will be responsible for some annotation or some other convention which will be founded by this particular object configurator, and it will be it will configure something in our object. Okay, so the next prompt I did, the new one, single responsibility in prompts, you see, finally, I asked write inject random int object configurator. By the way, I can show you that usually even this sentence can be enough to receive not bad result. Not always. Oh, new. First of all, he starts from the annotation, and okay, min and max, and then here he goes with Spring, and here he writing the implementation which will support exactly like I wanted. And pay attention, he got the idea that inject random annotation object configurator will not be the only one who will configure in some world objects, and because of that he decided to implement object configurator interface he invented with only one method configure, which will differently be implemented by different object configurators, and this one actually works very good, you see. So more or less I did the same here, but in order to be sure, you see it's my first shot. I added my ObjectFactory and then I asked write. So I gave him the minimum context, but you see I'm not always needed to do that. Because of that, I'm saying start with the shortest prompt you can, see what it's answering, stop it if it's wrong direction, and then you can add some context if you need. So as you saw there, it is min and max annotation, which should be used only on the fields. And this is the inject random int object configurator, which implements object configurator interface, and the same configure method with sneaky throws in order to avoid try and catch blocks. And here we can see that it uses some random which is created in the constructor of this inject random int annotation configurator, and then it takes the class of configured object. It takes all declared fields of this object and scans, goes through the fields, trying to get annotation inject random int. In case it doesn't null, it means it exists. It takes the min and max parameters from it. Then he generates some random value, and I can see it's correct, but no matter, I can ask for the test later on. And then I set in the field, no matter it is private, to be successful, and then I can set the value to the object. No need to make set accessible false, because it's every time when somebody will say get field, he will receive the field with access false by default if it's private. Okay, and then I ask for the test, you see, and he prepared some mock with random int field to check it, and you see it's min 3 max 7, and then he created the instance of the mock, and then he created he configured this mock with method configure this inject configurator. You see it's created here, and then he checks that the value in this range, and this test worked. And then it is good that I started with providing the minimum context of my ObjectFactory, because now what I want to combine together ObjectFactory with all configurations. And what have I done? Look here. Make factory work together with all configurations which can be found in ClassPass. You see, it's second attempt. In the first attempt, I just asked make factory work together with this configurator, So it's not surprise that it still thought about having a list of configurators inside, but now the list is a hard-coded field with this only one. So I changed the prompt because it's not 80%, it's maybe 20% or 30%. So I added this one, which can be found in ClassPass. And now we can see that it has a list of object configurators, and discover configurators is called here in the beginning, and he started with some service loader. So I think I'm in the wrong branch. I think I'm in the wrong branch. No, I'm in the right branch. I went to the config, to the ObjectFactory, and then you see what I did, because he gave me a solution I didn't like in here. You see, it doesn't use reflections we are already familiar with. It uses some service loader, and he wants from me the like serverless work, to put all name of the classes which are configurators in some predefined space where service locator can find them in order to find them in runtime automatically. But I don't want some separate file where these names should be updated every time. I just want to scan the package. And then, because this functionality related to ObjectFactory, from my side, I finished with this class when the test was good. And then I going back to the ObjectFactory, and I'm saying, here, you need to configure each object which created by createObject method by all existing object configurators. And then I'm providing the interface which was invented in the previous chat. Actually, we never saw the interface itself. We saw only the implementation, but it has only one method, so I can guess and can do it by myself, or pull members up in IntelliJ. And by using the new config method, I decided that it will be simpler if I add to my config class this getImplementations method, because I don't want too many friends to work directly with reflections. Remember that config has inside the reflections, which is meanwhile currently configured on the epam.com hardcoded. So all questions should be to config. If I want to find some implementation, I need to ask config. Okay, so meanwhile, config had only method getImplementation. Now I want to receive a list of all configurators, so I need additional method in my config, and I even asked for it. I said, write additional method getImplementations, and then he added to my config very simple method with castings here, getImplementations, get subtype of, blah, blah, blah. And on the way, I used it to fix, no matter. So this is the last version of config, by the way. And we can see now everything together. So let's go back to ObjectFactory and let's see. So I say here that use new config method getImplementations, and I provided the signature of the method. Create in each configurator. This is my fixes. For example, I didn't set that create each configurator before putting it to list, and then he filled the list with the classes and not with the objects of the configurators. I need the configurators instances inside my ObjectFactory to use them later to configure objects it will create. And then I fixed it a little bit, write only ObjectFactory class, don't use createObject when creating object configurator, because in the previous attempt he gave me a solution where he creates the configurator of this ObjectFactory, but ObjectFactory is not created in this phase because we are in the constructor on the ObjectFactory. This code is in the constructor. So I added this one, and after first shot, I received the good solution. You see now ObjectFactory has this logic which fills the list. Config getImplementations of object configurator.class, then take streams, create instance. Create instance is just for sticky throws. In Lambda you cannot avoid try and catch. So he decided, because he knows me. You know why he knows me? Here you can explain about you. Here in custom instructions. So I told him that I'm a senior software engineer. I'm working with ChatGPT mostly in order to improve blah, blah, blah. And I explained what I love, Java 17, Maven, blah, blah, blah. Don't repeat yourself, use sneaky throws instead of exception handling. You can explain it, I can change it at least one per several months when I have some new rules for myself. It doesn't work for 100%, but it much better. Okay, so for example, here you see he used the sneaky throws in order to encapsulate this try and catch, and now this code looks very fine. Okay, I'm creating the objects from each object configurator, and then I collecting them to the list. And then you can see the create object looks now like this. So we have some object we should create and return in the end. Or we will instantiate it from the current type, but in case it's interface, we can take the implementation from config. And then we will configure it before we will return. And in the configure object method, we can see that it doesn't use Stream API here, you see, but no matter, it's still good enough. Okay, so now I can demonstrate what do we have. So for example, the optimistic metric collector has initial metrics. You see, how do I collect metrics? If the counter is 1, okay, I'm starting from 0 in the beginning. Okay, counter is 0. So the first invocation, it will return some number which is initial metrics, but each additional invocation will increase the counter, and then it will return some bigger number. You see, okay, and the formula includes the initial metrics, but initial metrics was 1. Now I want to say, I don't have default value, it should be 200 and 700. Let's see that the number will much bigger than $900. I just want to see that this annotation really working. You see, I'm not lying to you. And we can look at the ObjectFactory, because more or less we almost at the end of the previous part of my talk, and from here in a few moments we will start the new development. So you can see ObjectFactory contains config, contains list of object configurators. This is 2 friends. So in the constructor, ObjectFactory creates the config and fills the list of configurators automatically with help of config, because of the config created before. Then I have create object method, which we saw right now. In case it's interface, we take the implementation from config and then create object. Otherwise, we just create object, configure it with all configurators, and return it configured. Okay. Okay. Now let's see. Let's summarize the rules. I'm using always. It will not be too much rules, but I want you to be engaged by my concept and at least to try that. Okay, so rule number 2, be concise when writing prompts. You saw that I just wrote a prompt to write inject underneath annotation object configurator. So in case you can think about very good name of your class, you don't believe, but sometimes it's enough and nothing to develop. The most complicated class for today, in the end of this talk, I will develop exactly with this principle. Just provide a very long but very understandable, meaningful name of the class. If you remember, I said it many years ago in the live talks that in case you write some bin postprocessor is a similar thing like object configurator in our framework, but bin postprocessor is from the world of Spring. And I always said that if you develop a bin postprocessor and its name less than 30 letters, you are not serious. And actually now I can see it's really like that. This is the most complicated thing of my prompt, to think about good name of the class. This is how you work by single responsibility. So start from the shortest prompt you can. Don't spend your time in the beginning. Analyze the answer and edit the prompt, maybe even stop stop generating it in the beginning if you see your context was not good enough. And then you can repeat improving your prompt until you have good result. In case you have several minor fixes, you can do it in one request. In case you change related to specific code block, because when ChatGPT rewrites the whole class or several classes, it can do something better and can break something else. And you already saw I'm using this when I'm saying write only config class, or I can say improve only this method. And the rule number 3, 80-20. If you already have 80% and you know how to write the rest 20%, do it by yourself, save your time. And especially when your changes are related to refactor, do it by yourself. When you try the refactor with ChatGPT, it can help here and break in other place. Okay, so this is the whole summary, but let's see the summary again later. What I want to do now, no, I don't have an option because we need the next slide. So let's make the summary. So before starting, explain your style. Okay, I already showed you where it exists here. When you log in, custom instructions. Chat history can be very valuable, so keep it clean and useful. Edit your prompt, not add additional blocks of prompt when you received not good result. Start with shown prompts. Work by single responsibility, chat per class, and I think this convention should be good. Project dot class name, the name of the prompt. Don't try to get 100%, aim 80-20, and sync your prompt with IntelliJ after you finish this 20%. Okay, say, and always thank him. Say him, it was great job, but I added my 20%. So this is the final version, take it. Now, in order to go to the next step of our framework, we need to improve the ObjectFactory in order to make our infrastructure support inversion of control. You know why we need infrastructure. First of all, it saves the time, but it makes the world beautiful because all infrastructure is under the ground and we don't see it. When it's leaking to the city, it's like in this picture. So this is the leakage of the infrastructure to my business logic. You see, ObjectFactory in every place. Every business class which will want something from ObjectFactory will need to write this line of code, ObjectFactory get instance. And it means that if I'll change something in my API of ObjectFactory, I will break all my business classes. So we need inversion of control. We need dependency injection, which is part of it. We need vice versa. We don't want that objects will use ObjectFactory to configure themselves. We want ObjectFactory to configure objects by understanding what the objects want, like it was with inject random int. Inject random int is an example of inversion of control when not my object which needs some random number be injected to the field goes to some infrastructure part and say, bring me a random number in this range. It's vice versa. They just say inject random int, and somebody who built them read this annotation, understand what should be done, and the same we want to do with injection. Okay, so now the next thing I did, do you agree that it should be another object configurator, one of these? Okay, we have only one meanwhile, which are responsible for inject random int. So now I want additional one, and it will be called inject by type annotation object configurator. So you see how I'm starting this prompt. It's very simple now to integrate between two prompts and to start this new one, because in case I just want one additional implementation, all I need to do to provide enough context is just to put the name of the interface I want from ChatGPT to implement with additional implementation, and I'm explaining what it should support. So you see, I even did not provided the ObjectFactory class here. I tried, and you see it's no fixes. So I said write support for inject by type. Use create object method of Singleton ObjectFactory to create needed object. You see, I saved my time. I didn't took all ObjectFactory and put it here. I just explained how it works. And then he created the interface I already have. And then he created an annotation. I need to copy it now. Let's make these fixes in parallel. So Java class, it should be annotation inject by type. It's like auto-wired, you know, if you're familiar with Spring. So okay, but it should be runtime, and we can use this annotation instead of using ObjectFactory everywhere. Yes, I need to delete it with this. Okay, and now I need to use this annotation, inject by type here, inject by type here, and inject by type here. Yes, if you know that most of the books today says use constructor injection, maybe we need to teach our framework to support constructor injection. Now how it's working. It first of all create an object with empty constructor and then start injecting something to the fields. We can do it vice versa. We can teach our framework to find constructor which receive everything and provide all needed objects not directly to the fields but to the constructor. But it's not so important. Good framework should support both. Now, if we will run this, magic will not happen, right? Because there is no some configurator which supports, and we can see that null pointer exception happened. It's no surprise for us, right? Because everything is null. Now, in order to complete this, we can go to the implementation which was provided by ChatGPT. And you see this end of this prompt, this very short prompt. And it was only one shot. That's all. Where is my IntelliJ? Now I just... Kotlin next time. So how it should be called? Inject by type annotation object configurator. And here we go. Okay. I don't love try and catch. You see, he ignored my configuration that I love sneaky throw, so I will use, but this is 20%, right? This is 20%, even less. Now let's run it. Let's see if you see it was enough, because our architecture is good. We just added one additional class, which was object configurator, and nothing to change. We don't need to teach somebody to use it. It's automatically part of the list of all configurators, and it's used in the beginning when each object created, and it injecting the needed objects. You see, if I will forget to mention with inject by type something, we'll receive immediately an exception because this one will be null. You see, and it says that metric corrector is null. Okay, so it should be like this. Okay, everything is working. Roman, by the way, should we make a break in the middle for 5-10 minutes? How do you see it?
If you need one,
I don't need. You know.
okay, then I would say we may just proceed.
Just proceed. Let's go on. Okay. So we got an inversion of control, and now I want to ask you a puzzler. So I will try to implement it, but meanwhile you can vote. What will be the right answer? You see, the only thing I want to do is just to print the analyzer in the constructor of the realizer. I just want to understand which implementation was injected by type. Okay, so what will be the output? This is the most simple question from the question I'm going to ask later. Okay, make a screenshot and write a correct answer. Meanwhile, I will implement this constructor. So wait. How do I generate in Mac?
If you want to generate a class or something, it's Command O.
Command O. Command O.
Command. Oh, Command O. Let's search. Command N. Sorry.
Command N. Command N. Okay, so we need an empty constructor, which will just put who is the analyzer. So what were the answers?
Yeah, I don't see anything in the chat. Igor, do you see something in YouTube? You muted just in case. Okay, I have some answers. One NPE, one null.
Okay, so you are right. In case we don't use and we don't constructor injection, in the phase of constructor working, inject fields are not yet injected, right? Because we remember when the object will be configured. You see, this is the invocation of constructor. This is the invocation of constructor. It happens before we configuring the object. And only in this phase, it will receive the injected fields. So because of that, we will receive null pointer exception. And if I run the code, I'll receive null pointer exception. Not null pointer exception. It will be just null. And now we need, let me see if I just asked. Yes, I asked. I'm trying to play a game. I don't understand what's going on, okay? I'm trying to understand if ChatGPT can not only help writing the code for me when I exactly know what I want to receive. I want to understand if ChatGPT are good enough to help me understand what's wrong, what's going on. But if I'm too junior and too stupid or too lazy and do nothing instead of I'm just asking him, it's not a good idea. So let's combine it together. So let's see what have I asked after here. Great job. Remember this version of ObjectFactory for the next tasks. Okay, it was before we started this thinking about what's wrong with the constructor. No, why it's support? It's support for PostConstruct. I think. Maybe it was some chat where I just chatted with him. Yes. Java on start here. You see, now this is a new code I'm writing. Okay, why public devrelza prints null? You see, very simple question. And he explained, if you see null printed when blah blah blah, constructor will close null, it's likely because analyzer field is not being initialized before it's accessed in the constructor. And then he says about constructor injection, but I don't want constructor injection. I want to solve it somehow. And then I say, what can be solution in my case? It was very long conversation with him, because he is pushing me to make constructor injection or to use some Spring. And then I'm trying again. I'm saying, what if I use field injection? And then he again goes to the Spring. And then I say, can you update my ObjectFactory to support PostConstruct? If you think I'm lying, where I took this information, it was from him, you see? Timing of dependency injection. And here he explained me very good why I'm receiving null. And to work around this, you can use method annotated with PostConstruct, which is executed after all the field injections are done. Okay, so the next, I say, can you update my ObjectFactory to support PostConstruct? You see, I'm still in ObjectFactory, but before I will continue on this, I have another question for you. This one is much more complicated question. Where do you think the logic which will support invoking method marked by PostConstruct, where it should be present? In additional object configurator, like we have 2 now, so we will have 3 now. It will be called like PostConstruct invoker object configurator. Or it should be in the ObjectFactory. Or maybe it should be some new type, not object configurator, some method invoker. Or I prefer to drink beer. It's always the correct answer. I'm waiting for your answer, guys.
Yeah, so we are monitoring chats, so we encourage everyone to take
Yeah.
part.
We are looking in the chats, and I guess this is a new popular question for any interview, technical interview.
Really? About the post?
Will be
Will
soon.
be soon.
Yeah, but you know how to answer on this question. First of all, you need to say that PostConstruct should be super rarely used because in case we want to do something additional except from injection, we can use constructor injection. But in some minor cases, PostConstruct can help. So I'm not sure that it's super. It can be a good question in case you want to check that the person you are interviewing has about more than 10 years of experience with Spring before constructor injection was popular, you know. Okay.
Okay, so in
So
chat
we
we
have
have
one
answer number
answer.
4. No, we have we have one some in YouTube and some on platform. So on platform we have one answer for the beer, 2 answers for 2, 1 for 3, one
Yeah,
more for
one
3.
for 2.
You see, complicated question. So the Spring answer was to put it in additional object configurator. So they call it bin post processor. So they have one bin post processor which supports auto-wire notation, another one supports PostConstruct. Why? I think it's not good solution. And actually, Jorgen Holler agree today that it was not good solution because that's what they received out of that. They have this one supports several notations and PostConstruct one of them. And you see the ordering. It's something. If to download the sources, you will see something like lowest precedence -3, something like that. Like here, and here is -2, and yes, -2. It's for the auto-wire. You see, so this is the reason why they have problem with ordering of their configurators. In our framework, we don't care about the ordering. It should not be important because I doesn't care what will grow first and the newborn baby, the hands first or the legs first. What is important when the baby born, it has everything. The same with the object. I want that ObjectFactory will release objects which are totally configured. And I don't care what was configured before, inject random int fields or inject by type fields or something else. Okay, so because of that, I decided to put this logic in the ObjectFactory. And in case you will say, what about single responsibility? I'll try to convince you that I'm not breaking single responsibility because the responsibility of ObjectFactory to create objects. To create object means to invoke constructor. PostConstruct logic is kind of constructor logic. Because of that, it's called PostConstruct. Okay, so because of that, if I agree that invoking the constructor is good for ObjectFactory, why not invoke PostConstruct as well in the same place? Because of that, by the way, PostConstruct, also known as second phase constructor. So it's still constructor. So let's go to the prompt, and because of that, I'm saying, can you update my ObjectFactory to support PostConstruct? And then he wrote only in the needed part. You see, he doing it in the correct place after object is configured. Otherwise, we will receive the same null pointer. After object is configured, we run the PostConstruct logic and how it's working. Initialize PostConstruct logic, scanning all the methods of the class in case some method annotated with PostConstruct annotation, set accessible in case it's private to true, and then invoke it. I think we can take this one and see what will happen. This is my ObjectFactory, so I'm just replacing. You see, because of that, it's very important to sync. I just do understand that I'm taking the class which was developed months ago, and I'm just replacing it with the new version which was provided by ChatGPT. Wait, I make copy, paste. It's already done. Okay. Yes. And where is the logic? No, it didn't copy it. Oh, no, copy. This is the most complicated part, to copy class, right? Control V. Okay. Now it sounds logical. You see, it says PostConstruct. This is not my annotation. Let's continue chatting with ChatGPT. Then I'm saying I don't have PostConstruct. It was bad prompt because I'm. What can he answer? Okay, don't have construct, develop, and then he say you can develop my PostConstruct annotation. So I stopped. I didn't saw the final answer. I want to work with standard annotations if I can. And then I'm asking, what dependency should I add for PostConstruct? And then he says that it can be Java EE or it can be Jakarta. If you know the story of PostConstruct annotation, it present in several jars, and if you will ask ChatGPT, and actually I did it, I think, but the Java EE PostConstruct annotation soon will be deprecated, or it's already deprecated, and someday it will be removed. But how can I know that? I need to continue with ChatGPT. So I'm asking, what is the core to use today? And he says, January 22, it's not so bad. Actually, it not should be April 23. Okay, and he says that number one is Jakarta E. So, okay. Let's go here. Let's say, hop, add dependency. Now, because this is additional rule, keep in mind that the latest version are not always latest. When you are receiving something from ChatGPT like 135, I'm not sure that 135 is the really latest version because he said by himself that he is January 22. So because of what can I do? I can check Maven Central repositories, like I can do it with IntelliJ latest version. I can read an internet about. I can ask my team lead. Maybe this is the best idea, and he will say, you don't need to go to the internet to write about this library. It's prohibited to use any version except from 4, and that's all. Maybe we need to start from asking team lead. We can use some instruments like Black Duck or Sonar in order to find out if we have something deprecated in usage. And our next task will be to develop some custom solution, which we will see it later. Meanwhile, I want to see PostConstruct is working, and I want to add. You see, I have several options, and Jakarta is my option. Thank you, ChatGPT, for that. And I can put sneaky throws. He forgot somehow to put sneaky throws here. What's going on? And I need import. Yep. You see, even less than 20%. Now, instead of seeing this null, let's see if now we will receive, we will rename it to some init method. Now it's init method, and now it's marked by PostConstruct notation. Opa, everything is, yeah. You see, now we can see that the injected the analyzer is from that implementation. This is the input class, and this is the hash code of the object. Okay. Now the next task, which will be most complicated. I hope it will, but nothing can go wrong. Nothing can go wrong. Now, in order to make me safe from deprecated method invocations, I want to log each time when deprecated method called since start. Okay, and this is the message: count and log each deprecated method invocation method, then method name was invoked X times since start. This is the message I want to see for each invocation of deprecated method. What have I done? I created new chat. No. This is very interesting. If I want to create new chat, what will I do there? I have two options. Option number one, I can just chat with ChatGPT in order to understand what the direction of the solution. How can I do something like that? It's much more complicated. Just a moment, I need to close the noise. Okay, so so I said that first option is just to open the new chat and start asking question about how can I add some repeatable logic to methods marked by particular annotation to understand the concept. What should I do? Bytecode instrumentation. And another option is to make the same conversation, but in the relevant context. So I decided that maybe it will be some additional responsibility of ObjectFactory. Maybe it will be some responsibility of additional ObjectFactory friends, but I don't know what will be their names because I don't know the approach. So I'm going back to my ObjectFactory prompt, and I'm saying him, you see, I'm trying to copy paste from the presentation. I just, in case I love short prompts, or I love prompts which can be created for some good description or from Jira or something like that. So think it's taken from Jira, count and log, blah, blah, blah. So I'm just putting this message, count and log each deprecated method, and with the example how it should look like, just copy paste. And then he takes me to some aspect J and said about some bytecode instrumentation and AOP. Then I say count and log each deprecated method invocation. I need to implement this solution without using Spring or aspect J. Let's see what I added after, because it was not enough. I'm writing framework like Spring, not using it, because this is very hard to guess. It's not how people usually work like, right? People usually implement some task. If in case an infrastructure task is something new which is not supported by Spring, why to do something which is supported by Spring in case you're using Spring? But we are not. We are implementing Spring, and ChatGPT cannot guess that. So then I got the idea. So without saying that, he's trying to do something very strange. He's trying to implement this particular solution without upgrading my framework. Because of that, I said him, I'm writing framework like Spring, not using it. And then He explained me, if you are building frames similar to Spring, you want to implement blah, 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 since Java doesn't have built-in AOP capabilities, in case you don't know what is AOP, you can open additional chat. This should be totally new chat because now you want to understand some concept. You can go to Google, you can go again to ChatGPT, talk a little bit about AOP capabilities, understand what does it mean AOP. But I hope that you're familiar with. If not, later on, you will be able to understand it better. I have several slides which explains one of the AOP implementations. But the main idea is aspect-oriented programming. The main idea is not to mix technical code with business logic together, like what can be additional aspects except from business logic. It can be exception handling. It can be logging. It can be some kind of benchmark. It can be transactional logic, open and close transactions in addition to business logic. So it can be some common logic which should be which should encapsulate the original logic. So this is AOP. Instead of copy pasting code related to open and closing transactions, I just will provide some code which will solve this for all methods marked by transactional annotation, for example, or for deprecated methods. And he explains me, I hope here, yes, how it can be implemented. He create a class deprecate method invocation handler, implements invocation handler, and he tries to create a proxy. You see, he uses some new proxy instance method, provides the interfaces, provides some class loader, and finally provides the deprecated method invocation handler, which is my class, and it should implement the invoke method. And here in the invoke method, the magic sits. So we check if method is deprecated. We can take the name of the method. We can make some count. You see it contains some concurrent hash map here for method name against the counter, and it increments it. And in the end, it invokes the original method on the target. If it's complicated, I have some visual explanation regarding the dynamic proxy pattern. Okay, so now it's not related to ChatGPT. It's something you need to understand in case you still don't know. This covers 90% of any magic Spring do, because most of Spring magic is some AOP which transparent to us, wrap our original logic with some additional stuff like transactions, async methods, and any kind of AOP logic. So what is dynamic proxy pattern? Let's talk about our example. We have metric collector, and let's say metric collector will have some deprecated method. Let's say that one. Okay, this is original class of metric collector object has deprecated method, but my metric collector class implements optimistic metric collector. So what this method, I'll show again. It should be here. What this new proxy instance, this one, you see the static method. The static method exists in the proxy class since 99, very old class. New proxy instance, it takes 3 parameters. Parameter number 1 is not so interesting. It's the class loader, which will be used to load the class which will be generated on the fly. It's very important to understand that new proxy instance actually do 2 things. Thing number 1, new proxy instance method will generate on the fly new bytecode, which will new bytecode of the class, which will implement the interfaces I'm saying him. You see, I'm just saying what the interfaces of original class. The target is the the object I'm going to wrap. Okay, metric collector is my target in my case. Okay, and metric collector implements metric collector interface. You see in the purple, metric collector interface. So the class which will be generated by the new proxy instance method will implement the same interfaces, because I'm taking the list of the interfaces from the original object. In case I have metric collector and it implement in case I have optimistic metric collector but it implements metric collector, the new generated class will as well implement metric collector. Okay, and then I need, this is the idea of this pattern, I need to replace, so in the end my ObjectFactory will not return the original object, but will return some proxy object which from generated class, the name by convention is $proxy and some number. Okay, so again, look please at this code. You see, we have create proxy static method, and it will be used in case I will find annotations deprecated on the method, and in case there is such methods, I will be able to create the new implementation from the generated proxy class. The second thing it does, it creates the instance of the generated proxy class, and this instance my ObjectFactory should return. I mean, if we look on the create object, in the end, some here, it will be my next question to you, where this logic should be provided, but some replace original obj with proxy in case it's needed, if needed. Okay, why needed? Because it has at least one deprecated method, it's already needed. So every object which want to use metric collector will not receive from ObjectFactory the original optimistic metric collector object. It will receive a proxy object, and what this proxy object actually is doing. This is very simple. Proxy classes are very stupid. Actually, they do nothing except from calling method invoke of invocation handler you will provide. Okay, so the idea of the new proxy instance that Java library proxy knows to generate bytecode for you, which will implement particular interface or interfaces, but it cannot know what should be the logic of these implemented methods. So the generated proxy class in each implemented method will just delegate to invocation handler, which will be provided by you. And invocation handler, which will be provided by you, should implement only one method invoke. This method invoke receiving the name of the method which was called on proxy and the arguments which was provided. Okay, and then invocation handler will decide what to do. In my case, I can do something. In my case, I'm measuring. For example, I want to do benchmark. I can measure the time now. Then I can call the original method. Because of that, I have the method here. You see, as a parameter. Again, proxy object is very stupid. For example, this is proxy object from metrics collector interface, and somebody calls collect. In my case, it's the developer calls collect of metric collector, but it's proxy object. The developer doesn't know it's proxy object because she works against interface. He doesn't understand it's not original object, it's object for some proxy class. She doesn't care. She just called the invoke. She only called the collect method. And the collect method of the proxy class triggers my invocation handler and say, whoa, collect method was invoked on me. What should I do? And then my invocation handler decide that first of all we need to increase the counter, and then we need to run the original method. So I can call the collect method on the real metric collector in some moment, and then I can update the counter or print to log or close transaction, depends what my proxy logic is doing, invocation handler, I mean. Okay, so this is the concept of a dynamic proxy pattern. And my question to you is where I should implement it. Oops.
I was muted. We're still waiting answers in the chat.
Yeah, let's check. Do you have some answers?
You ask me?
Yeah.
Okay, so
No, I'm asking, do you see answers in the chat? But if you
okay. So not at the moment. Not at the moment.
Okay, so seems questions are rather hard for our colleagues who are watching us.
It's another complicated question because it can be again for the interview, because Spring even here went with wrong way.
Okay, I have some answers. Yeah, we have answers, by the way.
Yeah, we have two answers, very popular. Drink a beer.
Yeah, so I have 144 in some new type, 141 in additional object configurator.
And we have answer from Skyroller, 1 or 2, probably 2.
Okay, so option number 2 is the option of Spring. What they did, first of all, why not to go with option number 1? Because it is impossible. Why it is impossible? If we look at the interface object configurator, we see that it doesn't return something to me. It's void. Okay, so I need to change the signature because the let's call it proxy configurator. Meanwhile, we still didn't decide what it will be, but let me call it proxy configurator. So the proxy configurator cannot return void. It should return the proxy object, and this proxy object should replace the original one. And in the end, ObjectFactory will not return the original object which was created in the beginning. It will return the proxy, which contains invocation handler, which bind it to original object. Okay, but void signature is not good for me. In case I will change it to some object here, I think all guys which implement things like that will not understand what they should return here. Okay, actually in Spring it's like that. So what have I done? Where is my note? Okay, so it should be void. Because of that, I'm thinking about some additional method signature, and my decision will be to use some new type, new interface. You know, we have 5 rules of solid, and one of them called interface segregation, rule number 4. And interface segregation says do not create too many methods in one interface which maybe not be used in the by the developers who will use these interfaces. And because Spring decided to add additional method to the bin post-processor interface, now they have something like this. They have they lucky that they have Java 8, because in Java 7 it just was implemented by everybody. And for example, I want to put my implementation in the first method. The first method should configure object. The second method should wrap it with proxy. And in case I don't have one of the logics, what should I write here? So it was return null, and it was null pointer exception everywhere. Now they have the default return bin. Okay, so why to do that? Because they have only them have 43 implementations of bin post process, and what about us? So it's much more. Okay, so we will go with some new type. Okay, And my new type will be proxy configurator. And I can even know what will be the name of the next prompt. It will be deprecated. You see, deprecated. This is the most longest prompt. Deprecated method logger counter. Let's see how I started the prompt. Again, I need to provide the minimum context because it's new prompt. So I say, this is my ObjectFactory, and I'm just providing all the class. And then I'm saying only one thing, write deprecated method logger counter proxy configurator. Okay, you see, one shot, there is no fixes here. What I'm receiving from him, he says, okay, class deprecated method login counter proxy configurator implements proxy configurator. Wow. Okay, so he invented the interface by himself. Again, I just said the name of the class. I didn't explain that it should be interface, but he understood it because he sees the context and he's smart. And then the configure method says if contains deprecated methods, if this type contains deprecated method, and then he return new proxy instance. Otherwise, he return the original object. Till now, it's very simple. And contains deprecated method is very simple logic. It just checks if the type annotation is deprecated or stream of get methods any match method is annotation present deprecated. Okay, very simple. Any match. And this is the invoke logic. I will change it with system out println. I don't have a logger here. You see, this is the method, each invocation handler. Remember the invocation handler from this slide? This one, the invocation handler. The only method invocation handler should implement the method invoke. So in my method invoke, because in class there can be several methods, part of them marked with deprecated and part of them are not marked with deprecated. So I need to log and increment the counter only in case method is deprecated, right? You see, if you will say just a moment, but we already asked the similar question. Not exactly. We ask similar question in order to make a decision. Do we need a proxy or we can just leave the object as is? In case it has at least one deprecated method, we already need a proxy. But we will not create proxy for everybody just for free because proxy is an object which costs. It has a particular cost. It takes space in the heap. It takes time to generate the class. So I don't want to generate proxy classes for everybody. I want to generate proxy class only in case even one method has a deprecated annotation. But my invocation handler don't need to be stupid. It should work differently. Okay, I want to remind that proxy object is very stupid. Every time when any method of proxy object was called, he goes to invocation handler and says, invocation handler, method A was invoked. Okay, but my invocation handler should not be the same stupid like him. He should say, okay, method A was called. Let me check. Does the method A deprecated? If yes, I want to do something in addition to invoke it. If no, I just invoke it. And this is what you see here. If method is deprecated, we want to increment the counter with some, you see, and we want to make some logging and say how many times since start it was invoked. Okay, then okay, let me take it. And maybe before I'll take it, I think we need to create this interface. Okay, no matter. Let me do something. I'm going to back to my ObjectFactory. And I wanted to write something. It's already written. I just need to show you. What was the last thing? Yes. Here, after we got the idea of proxy pattern, I can say write proxy configurator interface. And then he wrote me very good interface, which will be used by me in the next prompt. And then I finished the next prompt. And then add my object factory. You see, this is what I'm asking. I'm saying that exactly like I had the object configurators, I want the same with proxy configurators. Now I have two types of configurators, not one type with two methods like Spring have, but two different types of configurators, object configurator and proxy configurator. So I'm saying add to my object factory list of proxy configurators, fill them like you do with object configurators, and use them on created object. Pay attention, I even don't explain where to use it because I didn't decide it by myself. And it will be the next question to you. Where should we place? You already saw the answer, right? Close your eyes, close your eyes, close your eyes, close your eyes. I want to remove. Okay, open your eyes. Okay, so now you can start thinking about this question, where I will put the logic of initialize PostConstruct, where it should go now. I mean, where will we put the logic which should wrap the original object with all proxy layers or with all proxy configurators, where it should be. But meanwhile, let me take it to the code. So what he did, you see, now we have new version of ObjectFactory. It has list of object configurators, list of proxy configurators in the constructor. Object configurators will be filled with all sub-instances of object configurators, and proxy configurators will be filled with all sub-instances of proxy configurators. And then in the create object, first of all, we receive an implementation, then we create in an instance, then we configure in an object, and then we wrapping it with all proxies we need. And only here he moves the initialize PostConstruct to the end. And my question, is it correct that it will be in the end, or should it be in the beginning or in the middle, or where it should be? So my question is, where initialize PostConstruct should be.
So friends, you have a chance to answer for Evgeny right now. We are waiting. Maybe somebody want to ask additional. You have a chance. Please type your question or answer in the chat.
Okay.
In Evgeny location, it's a morning.
Yes, and
it's too early for a beer.
Late in the evening, and it's very complicated question. So Spring decide to do it here, and I decide the same. Why? So first of all, let's try to understand when can we wrap the original object with proxy layer which contains invocation handler with additional logic of benchmark of transactions of the deprecated method logging, no matter what. We cannot do it before we have the original object configured. And when it is configured after all object configurators configured him, inject by type, maybe some other injections. And after it is configured, we need to call the PostConstruct method. We cannot first of all wrap it with proxy. Why? Because in case we will wrap with proxy the original object before init method was invoked, init method will not be invoked at all. Why? Think about that you have init method which is private. It will not be present in proxy class because proxy class has only the methods from the interface. So how you will invoke it? So we need to finish the configuration of original object, and the last thing we will do is wrapping with a proxy. Okay, now let me take the code and let's see if it will work. Copy code. Okay, this is and we will move it. We will move it this line. So I need Java class. Oh no, it's too long for me. No, it is here. It's ObjectFactory. Thank you. ObjectFactory. Here we go, and the new version. Hop, hop. Again, stinky throws. Proxy configurator interface I need to create. But in order to create less, maybe we can take it from this prompt. Okay. So do we see the interface of proxy configurator? No, we don't see. Okay, I'll show you what can I do. So I'm taking this one. No, let's take the name first. Okay. New Java class. Okay, good name. Now we will take all the code. Hop. And okay. Okay, now I need to pull members up, refactor, pull members up, or extract interface. Extract interface. The name of the interface will be proxy configurator, and I need only configure proxy refactor. Yes. Use interface where possible. Okay, thank you. Oh, why did it? Okay, now we do have this signature. Very good. Maybe it should be. I think, something like this, right? Extends of T, and here, let me fix it because it can be subtype, right? It can be subtype. And here as well, T extends T. Okay, you see my 20%. This is my 20%. Okay, now let's check if it's working. It should not. Okay, what else is forgotten? Yep, let's run it again. Okay. We didn't. Optimistic collector is not an interval. Oh. Okay, let me check. Let's together try to fix the problem. Let's see in more details. So this where the proxy will be generated. It says new proxy instance class. What is that? Remember, we saw here target get interfaces. It was in another prompt, but I don't understand what was it. Let's say type get interfaces. we can take the class loader which loaded the original class, so the same way we'll take the interface. I didn't understood why it was some other code. Okay, now it compiles and works, but it doesn't do anything. You see, we don't have the messages. Let me change it from log info to let's do this. I don't have logger configured. Method, and here method get name is is deprecated, and it is called, and then we can take this one. Times. Okay, and let's see if we'll put here breakpoint. How do I put breakpoint? Okay, let's put it here and let's put it here on both lines. And now let me run it in debug. You see, it stopped here, and we can see now the metric collector collect method is inside my invocation handler. Let me show you something. I need to stop. Let's remove deprecated annotation in order to understand it. Because of that, if my optimistic metric collector will not have the deprecated, you see, we don't stop there. But in case it does, we will stop here, because now it's wrapped by proxy and we are inside the invocation handler. Okay, no matter. And again, I know the answer, but I want to be honest with myself. I can pay attention that something is strange here. You see public abstract double method collect. Why the method collect is double? But let me be honest, and I want to let chance to ChatGPT to solve it. So I did the minimum. I understood that the code I received from ChatGPT is working and the proxy is created, but I don't understand why this if is always false, right? Because we every time receive the first breakpoint, but never the second one. You see, if I run it again, I'm just run to cursor. You see, it never stops on the second one. So I went to ChatGPT and I said him, no, we need to be, public object invoke, blah blah blah. It doesn't work as method blah 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 is always false even when it exists. You see, so I'm just took this place where I was in debug and explained what I see. I'm not trying to solve it. I even not trying to understand what's going on. I'm trying to ask him, and then he say, you experience this blah blah blah, always return false. It's likely due to the way Java handles method reference in proxies. When using Java dynamic proxy mechanism, the method object passes to the invoke method are not directly from the proxy class, but from the interface the proxy class implements. This means that the annotation on the actual implementation methods may not be visible to the proxy. Do you remember that we put the annotation deprecated on the implementation of metric collector, not in the interface? We didn't provide the deprecated annotation here because maybe there is different implementation of metric collector, and not all collect methods of them should be deprecated. So it should be decided by the class. And in class, I'm saying this is deprecated, but the invocation handler, now I need to open again the slide here. The invocation handler is invoked by proxy object, and proxy object call the invoke method of invocation handler and provides the method, but this method is the method which was called on the proxy object, and the signature is taken from the interface. Proxy object knows nothing about the original object. He knows about the invocation handler, and invocation handler can decide to use original object or to replace totally the original logic. This is our decision. But proxy object doesn't know anything about the original class, original object, and the signatures. And that's what's trying to explain ChatGPT here. And to address this, we need to find the corresponding method on the target object class and check its annotation. Here's updated version of invoke. Okay, let me try to take this and let me see if it will help. So I'm going to my method invoke. This is original one, and and now let's run it even without debug. You know what? Let's take a chance. Maybe it will work. And it's working. You see, method collect was called 1 times. Method collect was called 2 times. Let's do something. Let's go to the main Java own application. Let's invoke it once again. And now we can see method collect was called 3 times. Method collect was called 4 times. You see, so it's perfectly working. Now we can look to understand how actually it was implemented. So now he tried to find method in target class. You see, he takes from the original object the class. Let's see how it's implemented, and just. So it's super easy, just to take from original class the method. Why it's without try and catch again? I can. Sneaky froze. Okay, did I broke something? Oh, it's working good. Now, the last thing I'm gonna do today, I'll try to see what will happen if I will use deprecated on some method which doesn't have an interface at all. For example, you know what? Yes, I thought about committing the because now I will change it. Let's put here deprecated, and let's see what will happen. You have a chance to answer. What will happen now? What difference when we use deprecated in the previous example? The class I marked with deprecated has an interface. Okay, but now what will happen in case the optimistic metric collector or some other class like Devrelza doesn't have an interface at all? Because if we look at the logic where we try to generate the proxy class, we see that this logic is based on that the class has an interfaces where the create proxy, create configure proxy. Where it is create? Here. New proxy instance. And you see here, he provides the original object to the invocation handler to make this connection between invocation handler and original object. We do have connection. So here is our target. But here we have a problem when we try to take the interfaces of Devrelza and Devrelza doesn't have interfaces at all. What will happen? So this is my question. What will happen when I run this code? how the proxy class will be generated. Let's see. It doesn't work. And exception is very simple. He says that the generated class, it generates the class, right? So it generates some class which kind of devrelza, but called $proxy8. But because it doesn't have any common interface with devrelza, he cannot be cast. So the exception happens here when we try to make this kind of casting, right? The create object receives some proxy $8, and it cannot be cast to the type of the devrelza because they don't have any common interface. And now let's try to solve it. So I'm saying you did a great job on the deprecated method logger counter proxy configurator. I improved it a little bit, so there is a final version we will use since now. Just remember, don't answer. Okay, and here was what we saw before. You see, I cleaned the exceptions as always. Super small fixes, even less than 20%. And then understood, nothing to do. And then I'm saying, what if class which has deprecated methods doesn't implement any interface? Which libraries can help me? And then he says, in case, blah, 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 and cglib, bytebody, aspect-j, Java assist, and he explains about each one of them. So what should I use? And then I'm saying, which one is more modern, but well checked and used, not in legacy projects. That's what's important to me. And then he says bytebody number 1. And then I'm saying, okay, can you rewrite this deprecated method blah, 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 to use bytebody for both scenarios with and without interface? And then he said, add this dependency. And this should, let me commit this version. This version demonstrates, let me commit the working copy. Yep. So this version demonstrates the dynamic proxy, and the next version will demonstrate bytebody. So let me call it dynamic proxy. Dynamic commit and push. Commit and push. Okay. So let me take the new version. You see, it's totally different API, much more modern. You see design pattern builder. We will see it through IntelliJ. It will be more convenient. So I'm going to my deprecated method logger counter, and I want to put, you see, this is the first shot almost. Again, sneaky froze. What else? Extends T. Yep. You see, even when I synchronized and lock, I didn't do the. Let me take it back to commit it. Okay, commit and push. Okay. It was committed. Control-Shift-Z. Okay. And now let's check if it's working. And if it's working, then I'll explain. Command Control Run. Wow, it's working. Method collect was called first time. We didn't mark the devrelza method with deprecated annotation. I commented out. Okay, let's make it deprecated again. Still working. Method execute devrelza strategy was called the first time. method execute the strategy was called second time. Remember, we call it twice here. So now it's working both for classes which has interfaces and which doesn't have any interfaces. Spring, by the way, work differently. Spring tries to generate, it depends on how you configure your Spring Boot application. Before Spring Boot 2, by default, Spring was configured to use strategy of dynamic proxy, and in case it is impossible because lack of interfaces, then it wasn't used by body, it was using CGlib. You saw it was one of the options. ChatGPT mentioned CGlib here as well. CGlib here, CGlib byte body, but CGlib is more for legacy. Random particulars and created for classes. CGlib can use. I don't remember where, but maybe here in the first somewhere he told me, but I know it by myself, but he told as well that it's more old library, and I opened an additional window. I will not find it now. I did it several months ago before I invented the concept of single responsibility with prompts, and it will take a lot of time to find it, but I used ChatGPT in order to analyze this benchmarks of byte body in order to decide that this library is really good and faster than CGlib, for example, and it is. Maybe we can meanwhile say, can you find some metrics of byte body? Can you summarize them? Let's start from the short prompt. Okay, now he went to browse the web. Meanwhile, I want to explain how this thing is working, the byte body. Okay, so it's very convenient and very simple API. So look, we still have the configure proxy method, which still receives the object and the original type. You know why it is important, and he thought, not I, why it is important that the signature of the proxy configurator contains the type as well, not only the object, because in the object configurator interface, it was only the T. And every time we wanted to know the type in order to scan for the annotation, we always could do like object get class. But this will not work in the proxy configurator because when proxy configurator, the chain of proxy configurators are working, we don't know, maybe the proxy was created by the previous in chain. And then when we will say get class, we will receive proxy $8, and we will not find any annotations we are looking for. So it's good that we have here the original type. And if we look at the ObjectFactory, you will see that this type is transferred from the original class. Wrap with proxy and impl class. You see, this is an impl class we took from config. This is the original one. This is a real class which implement the interface. Okay, and it is provided here as a type to any proxy configurator. And now if you look at the implementation we have here, so we have the object which should be replaced in case it has deprecated methods, and we have the original type in case we will be able to scan for annotation, and we ask if it contains deprecated method. Then we create the byte body, and in order to configure byte body proxy, we need to explain which class should be subclassed, and when it's subclassed, it will implement the same interfaces, as you can understand. And then I can say how it should be intercepted. And here I'm providing my new deprecation method invocation handler, okay, which will be the wrapper above where it was here. Okay, this binding, right? this one. I want the original metric collector to be binded to my invocation handler. So this here is the same concept of invocation handler, but the construction a little bit different. And then I can explain, and then I'm creating the proxy, and then I'm saying how to load the generated classes and to make it loaded. And then I say how to create it with constructor, and I create it by myself. Okay. And it works. And regarding the metrics, it's still network error. Okay, next time. Okay, so let me summarize what we have done. So first of all, we can continue. I'm not limited in time. I have another hour if you want. We can make a break now if you want. And we can continue to make semi-live coding, but now it will be together with you. The remaining, the missing components to our framework is the support of Singleton. Okay, so meanwhile we have beautiful. Let me maybe make it even more beautiful. We need in our create object not to have a mess. Where the create here. So this part is let's call it resolve impl, right? So this is how our ObjectFactory works. First thing is to understand what is the real implementation of the type we need to create. Then we will create. Then we will configure. Then we will invoke init methods to finish the configuration. And then we'll wrap it with a proxy. Okay, and now we want to cache all singletons in our framework. So before we will start talking, I want to ask you if you want to take it as a homework or you want to continue together with me. But now I will not write any prompt. You will send me what should be written in my prompt, or you will say me, and I will do it together with you. And the final, our purpose is to receive a benefit of caching singletons for our framework. Okay.
So guys, if you want to proceed in interactive mode, please type pluses into the chat.
Because I have two options, Roma. Option number one, I just can explain why and how, and it will be the homework, and we will finish now. Option number two, we can make a little break now for 5-10 minutes if guys need, and then I will explain about this task, and we will do the live coding.
So yeah, just type like live. You want to do it live? After small break, or like home?
Yes.
Yes. Make you choose one or two. Which option?
Yeah, one is live. Second is to do it at home by yourself. So yeah, just waiting for your answers. Yeah, it will take some time.
Let's wait one.
We still have some lag. We still have some lag between our broadcast and guys.
Okay. Meanwhile, let me finish several remaining slides, and then we will collect the answers, and we will decide.
Okay.
I'll say you goodbye, or we making a break. So before we start talking about the singleton, let's understand why it is it good or not. So we love stateless architecture, right? What's different between stateless and stateful? I hope you know. Stateless doesn't mean it doesn't have state. Stateless means that state will not be changed since the object was created and configured. So we can trust his behavior because it will be determined and consistent. That means of stateless. So in case this is how we work in, we can make a lot of reuse of singletons, which are stateless. And we need to understand if it's pattern or anti-pattern, because maybe you heard about that it's anti-pattern singleton, maybe you heard that it's good idea. And why context? Do we need to do it in the ObjectFactory, or should we create some additional layer? Okay, so this I heard this conversation a lot of times. So somebody says Singleton is anti-pattern, somebody says Singleton is a pattern, and somebody don't understand what they're talking about because Singleton is a whiskey. So let me summarize. We have advantage of Singleton as a concept and disadvantages of homemade Singleton pattern. So advantage, memory saving, right? Because instead of creating optimistic metric collector 5 times because 5 different objects use it, in case it's stateless, why to create it 5 times? So we save the memory, we save the performance both for creating object and both for the garbage collecting the object. We have consistency because we always use the same object. We have sometimes we have design solution limitation. We cannot avoid singletonius. We cannot avoid singletons. Like for example, think about some object like cache or load balancer. It's prohibited by design to have more than one like this. And actually, you can ask ChatGPT, and you will receive an endless list of advantages of Singleton. So Singleton is good idea. What is bad idea is to write static get instance method and implement this pattern every time. Why? First of all, by using static method, we have coupling and limitation of polymorphism. If we have a lot of homemade singletons, they are coupled to our classes. It's not flexible because of that, right? We need to change the code. If I have another implementation of some service which should be used, so I need to call get instance of another class instead of existing one. So I need to change the code. I cannot really create unit tests because I can create mocks. I have static methods. I can try using something like power mock, but it kills the performance. So I'm in serious problem. Next is violation of single responsibility principle. If my service contains logic of making it be a singleton, it already have at least 2 responsibilities. The business responsibility, because if I have some service, it created because it has some business responsibility. And in addition, it has a responsibility to make itself singleton. So already 2. And again, it can be endless list. But the killing feature why we don't want to use homemade singletons with get instance method, we created Spring-like framework in order to take the benefits from it. And in case the singletons will create them with themselves, like how you implement get instance method, you create it by yourself, or you need again go to ObjectFactory. And what about leaking of infrastructure? Okay, so we don't want somebody singletons, other users will create the objects. We want ObjectFactory will create them. Okay, so in order to have both benefits, singletons, and not implement them, we need this feature in our framework. Okay, so give me singleton from the box. Now I believe I have an answer. If it is your homework, you want to try it by yourself and then to chat with me later, or you prefer to write me now the solutions.
I'm not sure which option you prefer, but people want life.
I understand. I understand. Okay, so let me just summarize the methodology of coding of today. So again, before starting, explain your style. Remember, we can do it in one time. Chat history can be very valuable. And you saw how I used it today, and part of the history I used today, I saw last time months ago, and still it was very useful. Don't spend your time on writing long prompts. Maybe finally your prompt will be long with some copy paste from the previous context of other prompts, but start from the shortest prompt as you can and then extend them. Work by single responsibility. I tried to make a mess with the classes in one chat. It may be good for another kind of tasks. If you try to invent your architecture and you use ChatGPT in order to think together with him, it's another story, totally another story. I'm talking about the development of my task. And when I'm developing, I understand what are the pieces, and then by single responsibility, I separate these pieces to different prompts, and sometimes I just take the common context from this prompt to prompt in order to make easier for me to make integration. Okay, so I see myself like I'm the architecture of the code. Did you count how many lines I developed today during this talk? I don't believe it was even 20%. It was much less. Most of the work was done by ChatGPT, a little bit was done by IntelliJ, smart tricks and generations, and a little bit by me, small fixes, sneaky throws, generics, and so on. Okay, so if you work by single responsibility, you have a good chance that it will look like this. Don't try to get 100%. Again, don't spend your time. And don't forget, when you fix something from the result you receive from ChatGPT, update ChatGPT. Sync your code with him, because if you will continue working on that after 1 month, you want the latest version there, not only in IntelliJ. Okay, and guys, again, I want to remind that it was only my personal experience. I engage you to try this approach and to tell me what you think about it. Maybe we can improve it together. Try to do this homework. You will receive the link to my GitHub, and you will be able to download it and continue working on that. And again, guys, I'm working for the World Department, and if you love any activities which is good for developers, come to me and we will talk. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, so we will proceed as we decided. Let's have a short break, right? Will 5 minutes be enough?
For me, yes. It's
I think
not I who need the break. You need the break, because you need to think, what will you write now? Will you create the new prompt? Will you add something to ObjectFactory prompt? Think about the concept. We need some additional abstraction layer. The duty of ObjectFactory not to cache objects. The duty of ObjectFactory is to create them. So if you need additional layer, which will be the cache of objects, it should be something like application context. Okay, so now you need to think, what will you do in order to develop application context? Will you start from empty prompt? So give your time, give 5-10 minutes, and I'll ask you. You will tell me what to do. So prepare some text for me. I don't want to write anymore. I will just copy paste your ideas to my chat, and you will tell me to which chat I need to roll.
Okay, so it's 44 minutes right now. I suggest to have a break for like 5 minutes, and 50 minutes we will meet here back again and proceed with your prompts. So see you in 5 minutes. Hope you are still with us. Yeah, so as we mentioned in the beginning, previous time, Evgeny's talk took 6 hours, and I see Igor is also back. Hi, Igor.
Yeah, I'm here, waiting with interest.
I've interrupted you. Like I've interrupted you with a branding video. So please tell us what you wanted.
Don't worry, because Evgeny and you already told a lot of things, and why I should proceed with the same topic. It's okay. Let's give for our friends valuable content, not only just blah 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 about some different things, but something very useful.
So Evgeny is also back with us.
Yes.
Hello.
I'm here.
Okay. So how would we proceed?
You will send me to the chat what should I do, and I'll do.
Yeah, let's ask our friends who are with us. Please write something in the chat, or
it's
if
like
you
it's
can
like
proceed.
Go ahead. It's like spiritual seance, like if you're with us, give us a sign.
Yeah.
Java
spirit.
Let's formulate some task. So what do we want to hear? Which prompts we want to hear from guys?
we need to start supporting singleton annotation. For example, we can invent our own singleton annotation, mark with that annotation all classes which should be singletons, and somehow explain to ChatGPT that this feature should be supported by additional layer because we want single responsibility. Maybe we can ask him, maybe we can ask in ObjectFactory context where this code should be. You decide.
Okay, guys. So we are waiting for your prompts. Basically
Yeah.
anything. Just send us to any chat. For those who are thinking about some prompts, to what to start from, just reminder, we still have offline activities in online activities, and also we have some quizzes which you may take part in, and also we have Instagram and Twitter where you can subscribe and follow. So that's to do. So maybe I can start with that. So we decided that we have some singleton and do we want to have some singleton annotation or just singleton pattern and to use it anyhow?
As you want. I think that the most simple for us will be just mark with singleton annotation all needed classes, and that's all.
Okay, let's maybe just ask ChatGPT, like, I want to add to my application singleton. Yeah, I will share a screen. I want to add to my application. Do you want me to write this prompt or I can dictate?
You can dictate.
Okay,
Should I write it in the ObjectFactory or should I write it
yeah,
on top?
I think let's use ObjectFactory for that.
Okay.
So I want to add support for singleton pattern in my application. Yeah, guys, this was just first step, so I expect you will help us. So you voted for live for doing this in live, so yeah, let's do this together.
You see,
Yeah.
you want to extend the capability of ObjectFactory. I don't love this because it broke the single responsibility. It will be too much. But let's see. Maybe it will not be too complicated. Maybe it will be good. Maybe we finish and we can go home.
From home because we are already here.
Yeah. Okay. Config ObjectFactory. Config. Collect. Get implementations. Okay, no changes here.
Okay, we have suggestion.
Here I can see if singleton instances contains type, return blah blah blah. If it's interface, then he continued. But when he put it to the map, if is singleton and how it checks if it's singleton or not. Do you see the here? Impl class is annotated by singleton class. Okay. Let's take it.
Yep, let's take it and put. By the way, we have nice suggestion for prompt. Not sure if we will use it. Now imagine that you are me and I am you. What question would you ask me in order to blah blah blah?
Yeah, good idea. Okay, copy. Paste. Okay. Let's see where it comes from. Input class. Again, Jakarta. EGB sounds like super ancient. So let's use this one. I already know what. Okay. Let's run just to check that. Okay. Now let's see. Let's mark somebody to be a singleton. Let's take, for example, optimistic No, let's take the Vrelza. The Vrelza, let's mark it with Singleton. And let's try to take it more than one time. So I need to say like the Vrelza. No, I will repeat this. Oops. You see, I created it several times. And if you remember when it has init method, so if this one will be printed only once, that we are good. Does it work at all?
I don't see.
Let's put something. We can't miss. Maybe system exit. I need to do system. No, system exit happens only once.
So it's happened no one time.
Okay, let's. Maybe he broke something interesting, or maybe.
Shall we check IntelliJ history to check what was the change actually for ObjectFactory?
Yes. He added the map, Singleton instances, and then if Singleton instances contains key. Okay, no, it seems like it's correct. Where do we call the initialize PostConstruct? It's in the wrong place. It should be like this. Remember? This is exactly the problem that I told you, that in case we try to invoke PostConstruct methods for classes which replaced with proxy, in case we will do it after they replace with proxy, we will not find the PostConstruct annotation because it doesn't exist in the proxy class. So that's why we didn't saw it. Now we can see that it's only once. And in case I will remove the Singleton annotation from the Vrelza, it should be 4 times printed out. You see? Okay, so
Shall I call myself GPT master?
Yeah.
yes. And it was very short prompt. I think we need we can invent a lot of new activities with ChatGPT. One of them will be use as less letters as you can in your prompt. Remember 20 years ago it was competitions like you need to implement a game Snake, but it should be less than 1 kilobyte.
I remember. I don't know why. I remember that somewhere 10 years ago there was kind of God classes for Spring and for Java EE class which has as many annotations as possible. I don't know why I remember about that. So do we want to do something else with ChatGPT?
Maybe we can improve one more thing. I don't love the hard-coded names. I want where in config, I think we have it. Config. Okay, so config has the hard-coded com EPAM, and this one is hard-coded as well. Maybe this one is hard-coded is not such a big problem. It can be like application properties in Spring Boot, some convention, config.json. But this one should be configured from outside. Okay, who will tell me where and what should I do?
Guys, waiting for your prompts. I did my best in previous time.
You showed that you
And
can.
now you're tired. Now you're tired. You cannot.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like I have cooldown. I cannot propose new prompts. So yeah, our task. We want to now we have hard coded package com.epam in our code. We want to move it outside in some configuration, whatever, we don't know where. So we need to define some prompt to ChatGPT to help us with that. So please write this prompt in the chats, in any of both chats, so like we monitor both.
Let's
By
wait
the
a
way,
bit.
while we're waiting, Evgeny, we have a question. We had a question somewhere in the beginning of your talk, so let me ask it. Question was the following: why would you even save the chat used to develop some class? Do you intend to use it as stand-in for class documentation? Why not just move key points to Java docs or commit messages? So question.
Can I see the text or yeah?
Yeah, I can show it on the screen if you can see the screen. Here you go. Can you see it?
Yeah. Why would you even save the chat? Use. Not only. I have two advantages, two benefits of working with separate prompts and separate chat histories. The first advantage, just let me summarize again. First of all, I can remember, and it's much easier for me than reading documentation to see the evolution of the class. Maybe sometimes I won't go step back, so I need to see why we have code like we have now, and analyzing the documentation and commit messages is not always. It's much more complicated and not always provide good information. It's much more simple to see. That's how I started. That's what I asked. That's what I received. That's what I fixed. This is the first thing. The second thing, think about that. If you want to continue working on something, you already have existing prompt with context. You just open the last line of your existing chat from months ago and you continue working on this chat. You don't need to do something. Okay.
Okay, so thanks for the answer. I sent you to the Teams 2 prompts provided by our audience.
Okay, I close
So
the
you may pick up any of this, and also I will send the third one also to your. So you may use any of these three. Thanks to Andrei, Alexander, and Pavel.
Good idea to put it inside config.json, but the format of config.json file is not good for that. It map interface with implementation. So how can I do it? Provide several ways to extract several ways I don't love. Well, now I need to introduce external configuration from config class into file. I don't love none of that.
So yeah,
I will take the first one, but I'll say
okay, and we have one more suggestion in the chat. This one, maybe in a new prompt.
configurable parameter. What do you say? Configurable parameter. I want to externalize the configuration for the package name to configurable parameter. Oi.
It's not
You
not
send it to
ChatGPT.
our private chat.
You need to answer me now. You need to
Yeah, Roma, please provide your road code
and do it fast.
I try my best to do it fast.
I think he did vice versa. Now I have method get package name. System get property. Config set name. Do you love this approach?
It's for me, get property system. Why not?
For me, get property also sounds okay-ish, because I think I saw some something like this in some libraries which are exist in Spring.
Okay. Let's do that. So this one, right? He gave me, you see, you don't need to say to him, give me several options how to do that. He do it.
You already know that you need a
Yeah.
couple of options.
So I need to go to ObjectFactory and I need to say here like this, and now, and then I need to change this package name. It's less than 20%. I think we can create property. Right? And then where is ComIPAM? It will not be ComIPAM. It will be, how did we call it? Base package name. Right? Let's go back. So now the only thing we need to do is just to configure this property. Why it's ComIPAM here? It's default. I mean, it's like this, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, but let's use default because I don't want to configure this property. Nope. Let's put here breakpoint. Okay, base package name, ComIPAM. Okay.
We have a comment that now we need to move it from constructor.
But it doesn't exist in the constructor.
Do we pass it there? I mean, in the constructor.
Yes, I think.
And yeah, so comment from Dmitry, setter is used after constructor, and comment from Pavel, config
Why
uses
not
package
put
name
it in
or
the
no?
constructor, huh? What the package name?
No,
ComIPAM.
question is like,
Yes, because config start doing something here before, you see, in the constructor. So we need to put the base package name, string base package name, and maybe I don't need it later on. Maybe it's used only here, so I cannot keep it even. And now I need to provide the base package name here, and this one will be deleted. And we can run. Yep, everything is working. Cool.
So, Dmitry,
So-
thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. So it looks like you've created pretty good architecture, which with which even ChatGPT can easily extend,
Yep.
just like with simple prompts.
Okay, so guys, I'll commit. This is the final version. End of Java on conf.
It's not yet.
Day 2.
Yes.
Until the JaCoV, day 2. Because tomorrow we will proceed with other interesting talks.
Okay.
Yes. So link to GitHub we will attach on the platform right behind the Evgeny's talk. Everything will be there. And also I assume the presentation. So thank you everyone who stayed with us even after official ending, so for half an hour more. Thank you very much for day number 2. Really appreciate you, you all, and thank you very much for being with us. Tomorrow we have day number 3, as I already announced. We have 4 great talks. Join us tomorrow. Link in the description on YouTube. Evgeny, thank you very much for such great talk. I started speaking in a very wrong language. I don't know even what I'm saying.
We understood you well. Don't
Yes.
worry.
Yeah, it's like
Tú
just.
necesitas hablar español.
Sí, claro, puedo. Vale, vale, okay. So guys, thank you very much. Thank you very much for being with us again. Thank you very much for your talk. It's amazing as always, and hope to see you on future conferences, future hour conferences. Igor, thank you very much for being today with me as a co-host. I appreciate your the split time from hard work you have, I know, and being a part of Java conference. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, Roma. Thank you, guys. So we'll not spend a lot of time telling my emotions about this, but I hope you see that it was very interesting, and I believe all who was joined us in the same state, excited and involved, fully involved. And Evgeny, thank you very much. It's
Thank you, guys.
amazing.
Nice to
As
hear.
usual.
Nice to hear. Okay, I hope it
Okay.
was
Yeah,
not
it
only
was great.
pleasant, but it will help you.
Yeah.
Sure.
So thank you very much. It was the end of day 2. See you tomorrow on day 3. And Java is still on. Bye.
Bye. Bye, Roman. I sent the link in the presentation.
Thanks. Bye, guys.